All right, so Adamou Grazen said, happy to see two strong academy teams leading the way at EMEA Masters. It shouldn't be about trolling or streaming, but about developing talent for the region. Both orgs should be proud. I hope to see these star players in LEC soon. So I talked about this yesterday, but let's bring it up again. So Adamou. So Adamou is a person who works for MCOY. He's actually the co-founder and CEO of Overactive Media, which is the company that owns MCOY. So he's somebody that is, from the business side of things. He is not somebody that has been in esports for the entire time, but he is the main person. He's the main forward-facing person from the Overactive Media side. Now, this guy is not somebody who is endemic to esports. He kind of reminds me of like Joe Marsh. I consider this guy like Hispanic Joe Marsh. And a lot of his takes are just super disconnected. He's also somebody who has just lied publicly, not sure why. He's somebody who a couple months ago, I don't know if you remember when I covered this, but a couple months ago, he was making comments about how MCOY has their backs against the wall. They're trying to become the first team ever to reverse sweep in Fearless Draft. And, this is just kind of a weird tweet because we'd obviously seen reverse sweeps in Fearless Draft. The most notable one that we had was the reverse sweep of Hanwha Life by Gen G in the upper bracket finals, which is what allowed Gen G to get the first seed. It wasn't technically upper bracket finals because they didn't have a playoff format, but it was essentially the qualification match for MSI for first seed. That's the one that Gen G ended up winning. So we've had them before, and I think a week before that, didn't we have one in LPL? Literally a week before that, didn't we have a reverse sweep in LPL? Literally a week before that. I don't know if it was FPX versus NIP. It was one of these series was reverse sweep. Actually, no, it was BLG. It was BLG reverse sweeping who? It was BLG in split 3 reverse sweeping JDG. Yeah, this is the one that was actually a very prominent reverse sweep. So there had been multiple reverse sweeps, but one of them happened the same week. And it was really weird because sometimes like people make mistakes like this. There's not a big deal if somebody just says something, they thought it was true, and then they have their facts wrong, and you're like, yo, this is not true. It's like all good, right? It ends up happening. Everyone gets things wrong if you're tweeting a lot on social media, whatever. But the weird thing was when people confronted him and said, hey, bro, like, this is just incorrect. Here are 2 reverse sweeps. He just countered and said, no, I believe those weren't reverse sweeps. He was just like, bro, actually, I think that Gen G won games 2, 4, and 5, not 3, 4, and 5. And this is just easily fact checkable. I showed it before on stream, but how easy it is you just go like LCK, you're like, okay, LCK road to MSI, and then if you just went picks and bans and you just clicked individual games, you'd be able to click on this and you would just see 1, 2 and then 1, 2, 3. So it literally takes like under 10 seconds to figure this out, and people confronted him and he just stuck to his guns. He's like, nope, didn't happen, which was very fucking weird. People were like, yo, BLG JDG right here, and he just argued with people that they're wrong about something factually incorrect. So that was just very strange. But he just doesn't seem like he's really knows about esports. He's just somebody from the outside that is now trying to get into esports because he made an investment into the company. And obviously MCOY is a successful team. I think that type of partnership makes sense. It's like you have a company that has a lot of money on one side, and then on the other side you have somebody who doesn't have as much money. And when obviously Ibai is a rich guy, but we're talking about like hundreds of millions of dollars to invest into a company. Somebody that can shit out 30-40 million in order to buy a spot, that's a whole different ball game. So you have somebody who's really popular with somebody with a bunch of money, they collab and they end up having a pretty successful team. So nothing against MCOY here. I mean, I think that the MCOY idea has been really successful so far for them, but it is just strange, right? It is simply just strange. Also, Yamato's in my chat. He's saying, what happened to his VCT team? What happened to the glass? There's been some issues with MCOY. Obviously, they had the drama. I didn't even cover this one, but there was a drama where they had like a health professional, somebody who was supposed to take care of the health of players that was ignoring allergies. And apparently they found like glass in their smoothies. Like, it was just super fucking strange when that happened. And then there was the VCT drama with MCOY, which is why when we go into this a little bit deeper, you'll see why Ibai is acting the way he is. But there was a drama with the MCOY Valorant team where they got removed from VCT, which is the Valorant, EMEA challenger circuit. Shouldn't say challengers. It's the tier 1 circuit in EMEA. And there wasn't a reason stated publicly, but the idea was that MCOY breached the contract. They weren't doing their job of trying to promote the team that was in VCT. They weren't streaming the games as they were supposed to stream on their official channels. When they entered into this partnership, the expectation was that they would help promote the league, help promote Valorant, promote their team, and it felt like they just were half-assing it compared to what they're doing with their league team. And yeah, Riot obviously kicked them out based off that. So when Adamou comes in here and he says this is clearly just a shot at Los Ratones. It's like Los Ratones lost, and then the day after, 2 strong academy teams leading the way, and then he's essentially saying that Los Ratones is trolling and streaming, and they don't care about developing talent. Now, the weird thing here is that if you look at Los Ratones, it's actually not that different than a lot of the teams that are in EMEA Masters. If you look at teams in EMEA Masters, a lot of times people have a mix of veterans and young players. That is a very normal thing for an academy team. You have players that are trying to get back into it, or players that have role swapped, like Reckless. It makes sense for a player like that to spend a year in the challenger circuit of their region in order to improve, and you combo that with players that are fresh, new to competitive leagues. So that would be like Boss and Velia. So Los Ratones team is not even strange. I mean, even on like KCB, for example, Exakick is someone who's, was in LEC for a couple years, and now he's trying to get back to it with KCB, which is similar to what Crowny's doing. Nemesis is somebody who hasn't competed in like 4 or 5 years. So him getting back into it and then playing with a team like Los Ratones, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Also, if you look at Los Ratones, they didn't just like show up and just grief and do fucking terrible and just be a meme team and then become super popular because they're just trolling all the time, and then they get a spot in LEC. Like, obviously there hasn't been an official announcement, but the whole idea is that they're going to get one of the 2 provisionary spots in LEC winter to be able to compete. They were a team that dominated Tier 2 the entire year. They won their domestic league 3 times in NLC, and they won 2 EMEA Masters and got semifinals in EMEA Masters. So even in their worst split, they were top 4 in EMEA, maybe even higher than that. We'll have to see how KCB compares to Los Heretics, and then whatever ends up happening with USC, you don't really know how to compare those teams. But anyways, this is a really weird statement because Los Ratones was competitive. They were a competitive team, and they had players that have never played competitive before. Really. So Caedrel responds, and I know I can already see people talking about like, but Velia, but Velia played like Tier 2 Serbian league or some shit. This is his first time actually playing like serious ERLs with like a real team, right? If this is related to Los Ratones, which it obviously is, and you think our year was about trolling, then you are the most far-removed person in the scene once again, says Caedrel. Another terrible tweet of yours shows up on my timeline with an awful take about the current landscape of the scene in League. We gave it our absolute all this year, and for someone like you to come along with this shitty take is pathetic. So Caedrel is just going in on this guy. It's obviously a subtweet about Los Ratones, and it is just one of these people that's super annoying. I hate when people like this guy, people like Joe Marsh, come in and they're like, I'm fucking successful in the business world, so let me swing my dick around and tell all you kids how your fucking scene works. It's like, come on, bro. Like your knowledge doesn't have anything to do with EMEA Masters, with how these teams are run, with how a strong academy team should be developed. Like, you don't have this professional knowledge. You have knowledge of the business side of things, maybe in the real world, but not even in esports for the most part. So like, I always feel like this is super weird when people just feel like the need to have their own voice heard in places where they actually just don't spend time to understand the scene comprehensively. So yeah, just Spanish Joe Marsh, right? And the reason that this blew up is obviously Caedrel doesn't really talk to people like this. You know, he's always somebody who's trying to be nice to everyone. He doesn't want to cause drama. He's like very like mild-mannered in that regard. And Ibai comes in and then says this, which is essentially like, he's essentially lil broing Caedrel. That's the way this reads. Like, in Spanish, this is just kind of like, yeah, it says chill, bro. If they put you in LEC, it's all good. But it's like, the connotation is more condescending than that. It's more like hey, bro, you got what you wanted. Like, you got what you wanted. Just like stay quiet over there. And the reason why Ibai is responding is obviously because he sees Caedrel responding to the guy who is one of the main investors in MCOY. And he's the guy with the popularity that is going to go back and forth with Caedrel. You know, he's the guy that is going to come in here and, you know, set all of his fans against, you know, Caedrel and really like back them up in this regard. Because if not, Caedrel is going to completely ratio this guy and he's going to look like a clown. So Ibai says this, and the reason why this is super weird is that Caedrel is not the person who he should be mad at. The reason why Ibai is mad is because he had to partner with a team or with an organization that invested a lot of money in order to get an LEC spot. It was hard for Ibai to obtain an LEC spot, he had to go through a bunch of hoops. He had to jump through a bunch of hoops. And somebody like Caedrel is coming in, and because his team was really successful, like Riot is creating a workaround in order to get Los Ratones into the LEC. But they don't have to pay all the dues, which is like Riot's decision. And the reason why this is fucked up is because Riot didn't ask for the consent of all the teams. At least that's what Caedrel said, who's obviously a team owner. He's the owner of KC. Caedrel said that none of the teams agreed to have Los Ratones in the LEC, and Riot was like, fuck it, we're going to do it anyway. Where if they are true franchise partners, they should be asking all the teams, and there should be some type of like maybe compensation. Normally that's how these things work. For example, in the LCS, when they were trying to get Disguised in, what the LCS ended up doing is they bought back one of the slots, and then they can sell the slot or create like a guest slot. They can do what they want with the slot. But adding extra teams within the LEC can devalue the franchise slots each, and they would expect to at least be compensated or have some input, and they didn't have the input. But this is not Caedrel's fault, right? Like if I'm a team owner, like I fucking had Ruddy Sack this year. If LEC was like, yo, we want to put Ruddy Sack in the LEC because we want Perks and Yankos back in the LEC. Of course we would say yes. Any team would say yes. It's like, wait, we don't have to pay millions of dollars in order to compete? Yeah, anyone would say yes. That's not a Caedrel problem. That is a Riot problem. So Ibai is mad at Riot, but he's afraid of talking to Riot because Riot just bitch slapped them with the VCT EMEA stuff with MCOY. So because they just got bitch slapped by Riot, like Ibai won't talk to them, so he's just going at Caedrel publicly, which is really strange. So I thought this tweet was actually pretty good, where somebody in Spanish is saying, "You are very wrong with this tweet, Ibai. Caedrel adores you," and Caedrel has always been very publicly supportive of MCOY. Like when MCOY did really well in winter last year, they got second in their first split. Caedrel was like, damn, like I was a doubter, we were all doubters, you proved us wrong. It couldn't happen to a better person, Ibai. Like he's always been in Ibai's corner, but doesn't seem like it's the same from Ibai, right? It says Caedrel adores you and has always supported everything you've done. Posting his tweet trying to defend a bad take from Adam is going down the wrong path. There's no need to ruin the great image that Caedrel has of you. And then Ibai, which is like very snaky to me, says, I also adore Caedrel. It's like, yeah, I adore Caedrel. I'm just shitting on him publicly and trying to set all my fans on him. Like he knows what type of fan base he has. The MCOY fan base is like one of the ones that, it's not like Los Ratones fan base, where like Los Ratones fan base, if you criticize Los Ratones, they'll be annoying on social media. They'll be like, oh man, I never liked this Dom guy. Like that's what like they would say if I said something. But MCOY fan base is like, we are coming to kill you now. Like you will die today. Like that is the vibe that they have, So it's just much more like, they're much more riled up. Just in general, it's kind of just the way that these language-based communities are. These language-based communities are, everyone who is speaking our language is with us and we're against the world. Everyone who is not speaking our language is against us. Fuck all of them, right? There's also this connotation here. So I believe Los Ratones should be in the LEC. That said, there are teams that have spent millions of euros, not my case, on a supposed private spot, which now feels like it can be accessed from tier 2 because Riot keeps making sudden changes. We have zero security in anything. Esports are not in their best moment. So this is what Ibai says. Once again, why is he going in on Caedrel then? Why is he going in on Caedrel instead of just taking this up with Riot? That's the whole idea. And then this is what somebody says. Like, so this is essentially saying, then talk to Riot and not Caedrel. Like, that's what this guy is saying in Spanish. I mean, rough translation, bro. My Spanish is not perfect, but he's essentially saying, then fucking talk to Riot, bro. Why are you talking to Caedrel here? And then Ibai responds with like, I'll talk to whoever the fuck I want or whatever. Let's see what this says. I'll do whatever the hell I feel like doing. So yeah, he's just essentially saying I'll just do what I want, which is, it's the same energy as the tweet that Carlos got canceled for. No, like that's what I immediately thought when I saw this. The tweet that Carlos Rodriguez Ocelot got canceled for, just like kicked out of esports for, is when there was a video posted of him and Andrew Tate, and people were like, don't be friends with Andrew Tate. And his tweet or his response was literally just this. His response was, I'll be friends with whoever I want to. You can't tell me who to be friends with. It was actually the same fucking tweet. Like, which is just kind of funny because, like, I mean, I'm not saying that Ibai should be canceled for this. I mean, I also thought that, like, the way that Carlos was, like, instantly kicked out of esports for that type of tweet, I thought that was, like, just way too dramatic, way too hasty for somebody that actually contributed as much as he did to esports. So I thought that was too far. So I'm not for cancellation here, but I just think that it's kind of funny that he tweets exactly like this. But yeah, I mean, it's just a super weird drama that we ended up having. And I posted about it. You know, people are missing the point. I went to my replies here, and then I saw people quote retweeting me, and they're like, my take was essentially this, like, weird slight from Ibai towards Caedrel here. Any team in tier 2 offered a slot in LEC Winter would take it. Also, Caedrel didn't know if the teams agreed to the slot or not, which is a clip from Caedrel, and I believe he's being honest. I don't think he's like some super actor, where when Caedrel was offered the slot by Riot, he assumed that because it's a franchise league, the other teams were asked about an opinion for this, and maybe they got some type of payout, maybe there was some type of compensation there, and they wanted Los Ratones to be in it, because it is good to have popular teams within the LEC, because there's a trickle-down effect, right? Obviously, the more people that watch your matches, the more you can sell to sponsors if you're on the other team. If they're also getting compensated for it, it could be really good to get Los Ratones in the LEC. So people were saying that this was like hypocritical from Caedrel or something. I didn't even understand why. I just saw some tweets. Yeah, like this one, like, stop saying Caedrel didn't know, even if it's true. So I don't understand this. How can you think other teams will be fine with this free LEC spot? Because you could assume that they are offered some type of compensation from Riot, or that they wouldn't be able to give you the spot. Like, if you're offered the spot, you would assume that, like, that in a franchise, the franchised members will have some type of say, or there'll be some type of agreement, because they were never able to do this before. So I think it's a completely reasonable assumption. And the idea here is that Riot broke the like franchise agreement by then doing something special for Los Ratones, or just ask them to be sure. He's hypocritical by saying, I don't know. I don't understand what the hypocrisy is. Like, what is the hypocrisy of him saying that he didn't know here, even if he didn't know? So like, I see these types of tweets and I didn't really understand. And then obviously, you know, Guillerme, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is, but I don't even understand what the hypocrisy is. So like, I just asked to explain the hypocrisy, and then I just have people, well, at what point you think other owner will be fine with this free LEC spot? I can't believe Caedrel wasn't surprised of this Riot false information. I might be wrong, but for me, Caedrel acted as if the deal was accepted by everyone on purpose while he knew it was impossible. You wouldn't know it's impossible. Like, once again, I don't know what the hypocrisy is, but yeah, sure. We just saw these types of tweets. Then I saw people like not understanding what I was saying here. I'm not saying that Ibai shouldn't be mad. I'm saying that Ibai shouldn't be blaming Caedrel for everything that happened. You know, like, obviously Caedrel is somebody who had a successful team. KC also had a really successful team, and that's why Kameto's pissed, because he's like, yeah, I have a successful team in ERLs. Our team's doing really well. We have an insane fan base, and it's so hard for us to get within the LEC. But one thing to note is that if you look at the LEC summer and season finals from last year, it's combined. Like, that's the way people are trying to sell you that the summer viewership is actually higher this year. The difference is there was no season finals, which is the end of the year tournament in the arena, in the venue. So overall, there was more viewership last year than there was in summer. Include season finals, which is a tournament that everyone cares about, last year than there was this year in LEC. So the viewership is declining, and this is pretty much in every single league outside of LCK. Viewership is declining, and LEC wants to get the popular teams within their ecosystem. So it makes complete sense there. But yeah, I just wanted to cover this entire thing and just give my take on it. I just think that this is like just really bad form from Ibai. I just don't understand why he would do this to Caedrel, or like create this type of dynamic with Caedrel, when Caedrel has always been so supportive of Ibai. You know, like, he's always been like, man, this guy is breaking barriers. He's always really respected everything that he's done. You know, he's always been really grateful to everything that Ibai's done for the scene, Spanish community, and everything. So I just felt like this was really strange. Yeah, to be fair, apart from one split, LR has dominated tier 2. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very reasonable that if you were to do it based off who performed the best in tier 2, Los Ratones would get a spot. They won 2 out of the 3 EMEA Masters, you know? I mean, don't we know why Ibai is going in on Caedrel? No, I know why Ibai is going in on Caedrel, but then he just shouldn't do it, you know? Like, it's not like... It's like he's pissed because of something Riot did. So because he can't flame Riot, he then has to flame Caedrel. Like, that's not how it works, you know? Like, that's just not fair. So, yeah, I didn't fuck with this at all. Anyways,